Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to SuperConnectivity. I am your host, the chipmunky Charlie Esser, and with me as always,
the perturbed Phil Parrish.
The perturbed Phil Parrish. I didn't tell him we were doing names, and that's why he's perturbed. Okay, Phil.
No.
Welcome to SuperConnectivity, and let's see all the things to talk about tonight. Well, let's open up with our most recent Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Did you catch that?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did. And we got our B team Masters of Evil. Not quite the absorbing man and Lorelei that I was hoping for, but still interesting. Now here's something I was thinking, because I'm watching this and I haven't had the chance to look this up yet. Culver University, where Maze X works. Is that the same university that the Hulk ran through, where Betty Ross was working? Yeah, I think so. So, which means that when he gives them a referral to a colleague, it could still be Ty Burrell, Doc Samson.
Could be.
That's what I'm hoping for. That is like my big dream, that we're gonna get that. He gained a real interest in superhuman psychology after recent run-in with a guy you might have met, Phil. That I would love to see Ty Burrell in that. I really want to see Ty Burrell as Doc Samson on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if he doesn't get Samsoned out, I just want to see Ty Burrell as Leonard Samson on this show. I think that would be awesome. Mr. Hyde gathers together his team. Just as an odd thing, did you ever see the Family Guy where they all got superpowers?
I don't think.
Okay, there was an episode of Family Guy. It was one of their. It was like a short Family Guy thing where they were just doing a lot of viewer suggestions, and one of them was, "What if you all got superpowers?" And of course, Peg's got super speed, and Stewie's got super brain and telekinesis, and Peter's a shapeshifter. I think Lois got super strength, and Meg could make her nails grow long and sharp. And it just struck me that, was that supposed to be a shout out with Drea Mateo's character that she's got nails, that's her power,
The Masters of Not So Evil.
Yeah, that's it's the first draft of the Masters of Evil, and hopefully Cal will up his game next time, and you know what? I kind of got the feeling that he's kind of pissed at the Inhumans for dissing him now. You're just a science experiment. It's like, no, let's see what a little science. First off, Inhumans, who are you to be judging anyone for a science experiment? You're an alien science experiment. It's not like you're like, oh, I know you think you're all that, but you're just a science experiment, too. And second, I'd like to see what Cal does with some science on these people. I would not mind seeing Cal maybe even upping the game of some of these guys, like saying, oh, I'm a science experiment, eh? Let's see what happens when I try to do some science experiments on some of the indexers that I have come across. So that would be interesting. So yeah, definitely like the episode, and definitely like to see so much Cal, so much of Cal this week. Cal really makes the show for me, I think, and definitely want to see supervillains starting to rise and make their own waves and become the real threat for Shield, not just the manufactured threat of Hydra, but the real growing unrest among the superhuman community and their ill treatment by Shield, which of course leads to Civil War, Captain America.
There you go.
There you go. It all connects, man. Aside from that, we are rapidly racing towards Secret Wars. And honestly, at this point, I'm just like, I think they've given us a lot. And I think now it's just for the waiting. We know what Battle World looks like. We know basically what it is. All these different kingdoms broken up, and each kingdom is sort of like one part of a previous universe of Earth. And like I said in our comics roundup, I'm hoping that in 1872 Cowboy Marvel Universe we get to see Magnum PI the horse, but we'll have to see. Oh, that was the other thing I was thinking. Is like, great, now that there's Magnum PI the horse, the Animal Avengers now have a new member. Those who call the Animal Avengers, with Thor Frog and Niles the cat and all of these animal characters who had been associated with various superheroes over the years, formed their own group, which was actually from the old Assistant Editors Month What If, and it was what if Howard the Duck assembled the Animal Avengers, and it had like Ant-Man's ants and Thor Frog and all these characters. That was back in the day. But anyway, so hopefully I'm really excited about seeing more of Magnum PI the horse. That's what I wanted to say. Although what's interesting to me about 1872 Marvel Earth is that they haven't mentioned any of Marvel's cowboy characters, like Rawhide Kid, Two Gun Kid, or the original Ghost Rider, although he might be in the Ghost Riders series. They may tie them together. Although Ghost Rider has had a whole mess of problems in his continuity of late, since he, mind-controlled Mockingbird and, got murdered by her for that, because he was an evil man pulling a Cosby. Hey, you gotta go there, man. Sorry, Bill, that's the legacy now. You want to fix it? Talk about it. Tell your side of the story. You're not going to tell your side of the story? Only one person does the talking. That's unfortunate. Get a little commentary in there for you. But yeah. And, funny, when you think about how much of that mind control stuff was in our comics as a youth and still is out there today, although at least now it's much more frowned upon, I think, and is mostly used exclusively by villains and not just random situations. But yeah, mind control, don't do it, kids. It's worse than Black Vortex.
The Secret Wars, they're still teasing me with a married Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, well no, I mean that's our married Spider-Man. That is our prelude to MC2, I guess. That is Spider-Man and Mary Jane married, and with little Mayday. I am so excited for that. And what excites me about it, and I was reading the story on it, and they make this point that and really I kind of make the point as to why Spider-Man married with a child is a great story and should not have been done away with, because it ups the ante for Spider-Man, because at the same time that he has the most to lose, he also has the most reason to be a superhero. Because, that he has children to protect means he has to protect the world and protect the city. And that's also his reason to not want to be a superhero anymore, because he doesn't want to risk himself. But if he doesn't do it, then who's going to protect the world from Green Goblins and whatnots? So honestly, it's a great piece. And I mean, Spider-Man with Mary Jane and I'm a Mary Jane guy. I like Mary Jane better than Gwen Stacy.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna say I always thought Mary Jane was the better girlfriend for him. Because you know why? Because she brings Peter out of his shell. She lets Peter be Spider-Man without his mask. because that was always a very big thing with Spider-Man. You know, he's never see Peter Parker, and he puts on the mask, and he can be that wisecracking, high-flying superhero because no one sees him. But Mary Jane said, the Spider-Man is in you, Pete. You can be that. You can be with the rockin' redheaded bombshell. Because this is a comic book teenage wish fulfillment. So you can be that guy. And I'm going to like the fact that you're funny. So, you know, Peter Parker could be a lot more in his own element, in his own skin when he was with Mary Jane, that I don't know if he would have been with Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy seems, you know, Gwen Stacy's too perfect. Mary Jane, she had her up, she had her down. She was an actress. It's all crazy. But I felt that their love was love that should have been there forever. So, yay! Married Spider-Man.
It won't last.
Yeah, it never does. Well, except for Reed and Sue, they're still together. Of course, Fantastic Four ends, but they're still together.
See what happens after Secret Wars.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, you know, it's interesting. Speaking of all of this, you know, at the end of the last Fantastic Four issue, they're like, you know, will this happen? Will that happen? One of the questions they ask is, will Johnny stay powerless forever? And like, okay, well, we've already seen the solicits for Silk's date with Johnny where he's on fire. Now, granted, that's just the cover, but kind of implies he obviously gets his powers back. So, I don't know. Now, maybe that's something that happens in Secret Wars. I don't know. But Secret Wars is coming, and, you know, last week we got Doctor Doom as the great destroyer of worlds. And, of course, this week we've got, in Mighty Avengers, we've got the Beyond Corporation as, you know, it's not just the Beyonders. It's not just the... it is not just the hierarchy of characters that has been presented to us in the Avengers book. That no, once you get outside of reality, it goes nuts. And we are not all one thing. We all have different agendas, and what we're doing is our own thing. And we're trying to have fun, or we're trying to protect you, or whatever we're doing. We are the writers above, to do a Loki reference, because those who remember Loki back when his series came out during Fear itself, there was the whole concept of him communicating with the writer above, the writer of the stories, and the writer of the stories was who was really in charge, and how the stories got written, and that's what made reality. And, you know, I do feel that they are playing very, very close to this idea of just coming out and saying this universe is fictional. We exist within the minds of writers. Although obviously I don't think they're going to go that far, but I definitely think they're going to get to this point where this recognition of the manipulation of their timelines, of their realities, becomes very obvious to them. And it's, you know, one of my favorite films is The Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the reason why it's one of my favorite films is because it really delves into this concept of what the fictional characters do when they realize they're fictional. And how mad they're likely going to get when they realize that all of the stuff that they've been put through their whole lives was just because someone else thought it would be a good story. And I always run through this scene in my head. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, once he realizes he's fictional, he goes, "Sure! Push his son off the top of a building. Give him nightmares for the rest of his life. What does it matter? He's just a fictional character." And, you know, realizing that fictionality, realizing all of the tragedy you've gone through was just for someone else's amusement. Because even if they're fictional, it's real to them. You know, I've always taken that lesson as a writer, and always try to think when I'm being God in my little stories I write, it's like, am I being too jerky to this character? Am I really just, am I putting him through Job, and what is the payoff for my character to be Job? You know, and I think is going to be kind of maybe the most interesting part of Secret Wars, is if at the end of it the characters, I mean, obviously they can't rebel really, but maybe they walk away with some kind of deeper understanding of themselves and the universe and what they've been put through, and maybe you get a nice little meta scene where they're yelling at people for all the manipulations they've dealt with, which is always fun, you know. just saying, you are the ones who did this. We, the readers, of course, are the ones who put these poor characters through this because we're the ones who wanted to see it. We're the ones who cavalierly say, "Oh, why don't they kill those kids in Fantastic Four? Why don't they get back to this? Why don't they just get right out that whole marriage of Peter Parker, just retcon it away?" And now we have to deal with the costs of that. You readers, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Oh.
What do you think, Phil? I'm just yammering on here this week.
I'm just enjoying listening to this.
Well, that's. I hope the audience is too, because I do go on my rants here. But But then again, and speaking of that, the Beyonders don't all have one agenda. The Beyonders aren't one thing. It goes to this idea that I had suggested. I think it was last week or the week before. That maybe what they're going to find out is that the Beyonders are actually trying to save the universe, and that what has been screwing up the universe has been that the 616 isn't letting itself die. That it actually that the incursion should have wiped them away, but because Ravam al-Bal, Dr. Doom, had to save his universe, he sent the Black Swan to destroy that planet that would have destroyed the 616 in that first incursion in Wakanda. And because he sends the Black Swan to destroy it, his universe continues on, leads to the creation of both the Cabal and the reformation of the Illuminati. Well, first the reformation of the Illuminati and the Cabal, yada yada yada. Doing make his own plan, which leads to the creation of Ravam al-Bal, which always existed at that point because he sent the Black Swan to protect it. And if he had not had the Black Swan to prevent this incursion, maybe all the incursions would have stopped. Maybe the rest of the multiverse would have survived the balance resulting from that one first incursion. Maybe Ravam al-Bal actually caused the incursions himself. Maybe Dr. Doom started the incursions expressly because he could make himself into this god character of Ravam al-Bal, or whatever the heck they call him. And so the villain of the piece has always been Dr. Doom, which means the hero has to be Reed Richards at the end of the day, because he is the opposite of Dr. Doom's coin. And hopefully Marvel gets Fantastic Four back.
Maybe the incursions, maybe the universes aren't dying, maybe they're becoming part of something new, a new multiverse.
That's always the two Earths collide, or maybe they don't, because that's always that interesting thing. They say, when the two Earths collide, the two universes cease to be, or the universes just get knocked out the contiguous multiverse. Maybe they get sent into something beyond the Beyonders, and maybe that's where we go at the end of this. Who knows what happens? Or there's always the trying to think what I think it was. Was it an early draft of a Watchmen script where the heroes are dropped into the real world, quote unquote? I don't know, but that's a story that's been explored before, where all the heroes get dropped into a new world that doesn't have heroes, and that causes its own problems. I don't think they'll go with that. That seems a little silly. That seems like that premise would get worn out real fast. Yeah.
Get a younger, fresher Marvel universe.
Yeah, they could do that. They could reboot the whole thing. They could just say, screw you all, we're just rebooting the whole thing. Yeah, brand new Fantastic Four taking off in a rocket. Why not?
Why not? DC does it.
Yeah, well, we'll see what DC does. That was actually one of the things I was wondering, because you and I were discussing off the cast about the big reveal in
was it Batman Eternal?
Yeah, about at least apparently the puzzler being spoilers about the puzzler being the guy behind it.
The Clue Master.
Oh yeah, the Clue Master, not the puzzler. Goodness, that would have just been pathetic. It was the Puzzler. No, it was the Clue Master. It was the other Riddler knockoff. Doing essentially what the Riddler did in Batman Year One or Batman Year Zero. Yes.
Well, listen to World's Finest, the DC review, and you'll hear my theory on why Clue Master might not be the only mastermind.
I can't wait to listen to it. I am, and everyone, make sure you listen to World's Finest, because that's a great podcast. But this was the thing. So with him with his daughter being called Spoiler, and it was just this thing, because all these comic book guys, they all talk because it's a small industry, and so I'll wager that there are a lot of guys at DC who know what Marvel is up to. And just like there's a lot of guys at Marvel who know what DC is up to, which is why I think they always wind up doing very similar but not quite the same things each in their big events lately. And I just was wondering if, like, calling the characters the Spoiler was just a nod to this fictional, this sort of acknowledgement of the fictional nature of the Marvel universe. This is just a real stretch there, but just acknowledging that Marvel was sort of embracing their fictional nature. The fictional nature of comics. I mean, is there anything... I'll say this much. Embracing that, going into this idea, and this is what I like about as we're getting towards the Secret Wars, is that there is this embrace of this idea that, nothing is out of continuity. Everything happened, and everything is malleable because this universe has been malleable. People have been playing with this universe and pulling the strings in this universe. Both actual writers doing it, and just throughout history, there's just been all these characters, these Charlie X's, if you will. If you remember the Star Trek episode with Charlie X, your original Infant Terribly. Or the Infant Terrible, as Stan Lee wrote it when he first had your superpowered, nigh omnipotent being come to Earth and get convinced by mobsters to help him commit crimes. The Infant Terrible. It's classic. That these beings have been manipulated and have had their stories manipulated by things both divine and profane. And, I think that is what is the crux of what we're going to get in our Secret Wars. I think it's going to be part of that realization that someone has been pulling their strings and the characters aren't happy about it. And whether that something was, as has been suggested, I got to find that website again. There's a very great nerd website out there where a guy who basically explains that the entire timeline in the Marvel Universe has been manipulated by Franklin Richards. Because it starts when he's conceived and Sue Richards is pregnant for 3 years. And then after he's born and he stays a baby for this entire process. And then about how Franklin Richards' age seems to shift. He gets a little bit older, then he goes back to being a little kid again, and is constantly and it is true when you look at his age in the books. Sometimes he gets older, sometimes he gets younger. What I've actually always found fascinating is the fact that time slides at different rates for people in the Marvel Universe, and that's something that it's very obvious, but no one ever really mentions. And this was actually brought home just before the Winter Soldier series. The Winter Soldier storyline in Captain America, when Jack Monroe has disappeared, and because he's been murdered by Bucky, or he's been captured by Bucky and then gets murdered by Zemo, or however it all broke down. Because baby Bucky, as a grown-up woman, comes to Captain America to ask for help. Now, how baby Bucky, who was theoretically at the time younger than Franklin Richards, is now a grown woman when Franklin Richards is 8, is the crux of the conundrum, because it's that time does not pass the same for everybody, and so everyone's story has been manipulated, and I think also maybe just playing up how manipulated everyone's storyline has been is intentional by the writers, so that when they do crack the egg on Secret Wars, it's going to be like, no, this is all what has been happening. And now we can say, yes, everyone's timeline has been manipulated. Everything has been made chaotic because of this manipulation. And now when we rebuild our universe with our characters, now, and I think what you're going to have at the end of this is what I think is what you're going to have. You're going to have characters that are going to come in, and it's going to be the 616 essentially again. But now they're going to know that their timelines had been manipulated. And it's going to be this idea that Steve Rogers is going to know that he was started out in the 60s, but that he's in the 2014 now, and they know that time was manipulated. And even though he has these memories going back to the 60s, he knows also that he was just spawned out 15 years ago in the year 2000 or 2008 or whatever year you want to say that he was spawned out in the current Marvel continuity. And now what they do from there is going to be interesting, because then do they go back to a real-time story frame, where they're going to say, okay, now going forward, time moves at a relatively stable, though contracted pace, where, you're not going to have 1 month to 1 month, but you're going to have, over the course of a year, maybe 1 month is passing, and it's going to be sort of consistent for all the books. Or are they just going to go back to dilating the time and shrinking it and contracting it as they so desire, sliding it as needed, which always makes Captain America a difficult character, but as an obvious point, they just pulled Nick Fury and Captain America both off the chessboards, which sort of moves forward that idea that now maybe we don't have to have characters as tied to one point in time as we once did. But it will be interesting as we get towards Secret Wars. All the pieces are in place now, and now we just got to get there. We just got to burn through the last couple issues and that people have out there, get through their black vortexes and whatnot, and get to the dang Secret Wars already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy. How long have we been on tonight, Phil? You've got the clock going.
We're probably pretty close.
Pretty close? Okay. Yeah. Well, Avengers Age of Ultron's coming. Looks very good. Still looks good. Looked good 6 months ago. Looks good now. Hasn't started to look like the new Fantastic Four yet. Although, nope. I'll say this much. It looks like they're trying to do some damage control on Fantastic Four, because recently they said that they do get their proper uniforms at the end of the series. That at the end of the movie. That it's just that they don't get them right away because that would seem contrived. So basically, we go through these containment unit things and then we get them at the end. So they're basically now saying, "Oh, fans, please don't think this is the worst film ever. We are going to have some fan service. This might actually be good." They're still releasing really boring and uninteresting stills from the film, but they obviously are trying to make some amends with fans, and so maybe that's going to survive and not be completely forgotten in the wash of Daredevil and Avengers and Ant-Man. Yeah, you don't want to get beat by Ant-Man Fantastic Four. Does DC have anything coming out this year aside from their amazing Flash and Arrow and Gotham?
No, movie-wise, I don't think so.
Oh, well. At least we got Flash and Arrow and an extra show coming soon, and Gotham. And I still say they have to have someone from one of the contiguous Arrow universes, Arrow stories, go to modern-day Gotham and meet Commissioner Gordon and just have the guy in old man makeup, or at least have Bullock in old man makeup, I want to see that. I really want to see that. I really want to have that connection between Gotham and the rest of the DC television universe. Because Gotham is at a different point in time where we've established that it's in an ambiguous side time, but it'll be interesting. Okay, so that is everything that we have connected. Those are our connections for this week. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Charlie Esser. I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every week, and sometimes I'll live tweet something else, so watch for some exciting moments. And aside from that, follow me on Twitter at blanked out there. Follow me on. You can tell it's Lent. I haven't eaten a lot today. There you go. Hey, we do this on Fridays, kids. Just so you know. So follow me on Twitter at Charlie Esser. I'm the first Charlie Esser on Twitter. Very proud of that fact. Always will be. You can write me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com because I was not the first superconnectivity on Gmail, and I will always be sad for that fact. And Phil, where are you?
I am on Twitter at NightwingPDP, and you can email me at nightwingpdp@gmail.com.
Very good. And I have been the chipmunky, Charlie Esser.
And I've been the perturbed Phil Parrish.
And you can connect with us again next week. Stay connected. Enough said.